Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, welcome to Conservatives Cool Talk Radio. This is your host, Wayne Bradley. Folks, listen up. We've got 5 days left until Election Day. It's time to get to the voting booth and make some changes. We got some change in '08 that I don't think people were looking for. So it's time now to hit the booth and make some changes. Today I got some special guests. Someone who I consider a favorite is Ilario Pantano. I'm waiting for him to join me on the show. He's a former Marine. I'm sure you've heard his story, and now we're going to talk about it a little bit when he gets on the air. I'm also going to play an old interview with Alan West. Again, today we're focusing on people that are going to make differences and make changes in our country and get us back on the right track, promoting business, getting back to a smaller government, a more efficient government, because just because it'll be smaller doesn't mean it'll be better. So we've got to really work hard here in these coming days and make sure that we get the right people elected. I'm waiting for Ilario to give me a call here on the line. If you're listening in today and you want to talk a little bit about what's going on here in this country and tell me about who you got going on in your elections and who you're hoping to pull through, give me a call here. I want to hear from you out there. 347-996-3175. Again, the call-in number is 347-996-3175. So, we got a lot of big things going on here. Last week, it appears that Bill Clinton tried to talk Jamal Meeks, out of dropping out of the election, so he could go ahead and endorse Chris, the former the governor of Florida. Now, I want to point out a couple things here to you. One, Governor Chris is running as an independent because of his. Basically, he supported Obama, and the amazing thing is, it's amazing how things turn so quickly. He was speaking last year at the Michigan GOP conference as being raised, someone that was almost a hero, someone that was, he was a shoo-in victory for Senate last year at this time. And Marco Rubio came through and started talking common sense conservatism and totally changed the whole political makeup down there in Florida. So what you have going on here now is you have a three-way race, and obviously now you're talking about the votes getting split between Meeks and Chris, and it's interesting that Bill Clinton and his people through intermediaries tried to get Meeks to drop out the race. Now I got a couple of things I want to point out there. Could you imagine if the GOP had went to a black candidate and asked him to pull out of the race, don't run, so someone else could run who's not even a Democrat? I mean, like I said, if you're a Republican, imagine them coming to Alan West, asking him to drop out the race so they can endorse an independent liberal rhino. Now, I saw that happen in Alabama with Les Phillips, where they ended up supporting the person that, switched over from being a Democrat 3 months earlier, that has supported most of Nancy Pelosi's policies. And so what you saw here is the old Washington D.C. politics, the good old boys network getting together and deciding what was going to be best for Alabama, and they took a Nancy Pelosi clone and made him the Republican candidate. Now I think that's again very interesting and no one really has pointed that out, but in Florida nonetheless they asked Jamal Meeks to back out of the race so that they can endorse Christie. They're so scared of what Marco Rubio is going to do. And he's running such a strong campaign that they're actually asking people to drop out the race to give Chris a better chance. And I'm glad Meeks is not doing that on principle alone, because he said himself, hey, he's the only true Democrat. Now, I kind of disagree with that because the way Chris has done it, he's definitely proven himself to be a rhino, and that's why Bill Clinton and Obama and these kind of guys are supporting him. So it's been a very interesting last couple of days here as we're leading up to the race. What do you think about that, folks? Do you think that what would be the backlash? How do you think the media, the mainstream media, will pick it up if the GOP had a black candidate fall out the race? If they asked them to, on top of that, to fall out the race so they can support someone else. It would be a totally different story, but yet there's been very little coverage of the fact that Bill Clinton tried to do that, and there's been no uproar from the Meeks, from the Meeks camp. I mean, I guess they're playing it safe. He's going to need a job after they lose, so he doesn't want to burn too many bridges. But again, I think that's amazing with the hypocrisy and the things that the Democratic Party get away with compared to what the GOP does. And again, you got to understand that what they're trying to do is they're playing strictly a game of politics. They're not looking out for the best interest of the people. They're looking out for their special interest, for the people that can tell them what to do. It's just unbelievable. And again, I'm really amazed at the way these people go about this, and how again the mainstream media doesn't cover that. They're too busy covering all the other issues of the world that really don't matter right now. I mean, you can go out and say, long as you're not offending gay people or anything like that right now, that's the only way you'll get in some trouble right now. It appears to be here in America, is that if you question someone about that, you might get in a little more trouble. So I guess people are starting to learn now. You have a teacher down in Virginia that's actually going to lose he's resigning, a school official, because he made a comment about homosexuality and what they should do, and he wasn't gonna mourn someone that killed himself. And again, I don't agree with hate speech and those kind of things, but it's gotten to the point now where everything is so PC, where people are going out of their way to not speak their mind, that we don't know what people are thinking until it's too late, or until someone gets offended. And I think that's the direction our country's heading in, and I think that we need to turn all that around. Ilario Pantano, who's supposed to be my first guest on the show today, he has an amazing story of being a Marine, going to Wall Street, then after seeing 9/11 happen, feeling compelled to go back to the Marines and serve his country again. And these are the kind of people that we want in Congress. These are the kind of people that can help make a difference, because again, he's not doing it for the gratification. He's not doing it for a job, because a lot of these lifetime politicians, this is a pay raise to them, or keeping their job. They're not concerned about the people, and I think that's starting to resonate with people. I think that's what you're seeing with the Tea Party candidates, and it's time for a change. It's time to bring people on here that are going to make a difference. So if you're listening out there, give me a call, 347-996-3175. I want to hear from the folks out there. Where are you calling from, and what election are you watching most closely in your area? Because again, people, this is a crucial time in our country. We need to really, really pay attention to the people we're putting in office and our leaders. So hopefully soon Ilario will be joining me. I didn't know if I was going to be able to get any of these candidates here the last couple of days. Everyone's schedules are so crazy. Let's see here. See if we can get Ilario on the line. I'm going to have to reach out and see. There might be a time conflict, but give me a call here if you're listening in. 347-996-3175. I'm posting it on Twitter. Hopefully we can get Ilario on here very shortly. I really want to get him on the show. He's a great candidate. He's been, like I said, he's been one of my favorite interviews. So I'm hoping we can get him back on the show. Let me go to my. Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and play an interview right now with Alan West, again, who's a patriot, someone that we can all look up to, someone, again, who's going to make a difference when we get to D.C. He actually told John Boehner when he was in town, fundraising and politicking for him, that he won't hesitate to call him out either if he's not doing the right thing. So those are the kind of people we definitely need in D.C. right now. So I'm going to go ahead and play the Alan West interview, and hopefully we can get Ilario on the air here in the next few minutes. Give me a call, folks, 347-996-3175. I'm going to go ahead and play the Allen West interview right now. And thank you this morning for joining me on Conservative is Cool Talk Radio. I have a very special guest with me today, someone who I consider a personal hero of mine and the Patriot, Lieutenant Colonel Allen West. Welcome, sir.
Well, thanks so much, Wayne, for having me, and greetings to your listening audience.
Thank you. I want to first say thank you for coming on the show. I know you have such a busy schedule. So far, obviously you've become what I would consider a national star. How have you enjoyed this campaign so far?
Well, I think it's a great campaign, and you say national star. I mean, I don't consider myself that. It's very humbling, and it's an incredible honor to be considered all across the country as a person that is the right type of voice and leader to make a difference in our country right now. So it's a huge responsibility, but when the American people look to you for being a person that can go and create viable solutions for this country, I'm more than willing, and that keeps my energy level up.
Do you think a lot of that commitment comes from your extensive time in the military?
Well, of course it does, and it's not just my time in the military, but it's a legacy of service that goes back to my father in World War II, my older brother in Vietnam, and the 22 years that I served, and I passed that torch on to my young nephew, who is the Captain Herman West III, serving in the United States Army right now. So it really does come from that commitment of our family to this country.
And I remember hearing you saying in your speech that you continue that oath, even though when you were in the military, you gave the oath, and you continue it to this day, right?
You absolutely do. And what I tell folks is there's no statute of limitations on it. And that's truly the measure of a person that's a servant of this country and not someone that's just going to Washington, D.C. to be served.
Right. And so if elected to Congress, what will be one of the first things you'll do if elected to Congress?
Well, I think the most important thing is our economy. I think it starts with reforming our tax code, our tax system. The progressive tax system lends itself to class warfare, and I think that we have to get away from that. I'm a proponent of a flat tax to be instituted and to lower the personal income tax rate and also the corporate business tax rate. I think that we need to eliminate the capital gains dividend and the death tax, which is due to come back. And I think a great way to stimulate our economy is to use a suspension of payroll taxes until we get the right economic indicators. But also, I will seek to get on the House Armed Services Committee because I think the rules of engagement have to be examined and analyzed. I think that it provides the initiative to the enemy and not to our soldiers. And speaking of which, I mean, we have soldiers that are sitting in Fort Leavenworth that I think have been unjustly imprisoned, namely First Lieutenant Michael Behenna, and I think one of the key things I'm going to seek to do is get those guys out of Fort Leavenworth.
Do you think with the way this current administration is operating that they're treating our soldiers and even with the CIA, they're treating them almost as the enemy combatant and not the actual terrorists?
Well, you bring up a great point, Wayne, in that I think it was 2 weeks ago, the New York Times, 2 or 3 weeks ago, New York Times wrote a piece about how we have instituted a pledge policy whereby fathers or tribal leaders can come in with a pledge that an individual will no longer support the Taliban, and we're releasing them on that, I guess on that recognizance. And so when you have a system whereby we're releasing people who have attacked our soldiers, maybe even killed our soldiers in some instances, but yet we're imprisoning our own, or we're trying to court-martial these SEALs for, allegedly punching a guy, we're upside down in our country.
Do you think a lot of that is at this point, is it a reflection of the current administration? He seems to have an issue with, I would say, the military, police officers in general. Is that a reflection of him in this current administration?
I think that it is a reflection of the current administration, but I think that it is something that is a holdover from the previous administration. The rules of engagement were established initially under the Bush administration, but the Obama administration has taken it to an incredible degree and also continued the prosecution of our CIA agents and also our servicemen and women has just made a bad situation even worse. So I think that there are many things that this administration is doing that flies in the face of the military. Not going to Arlington National Cemetery on Memorial Day was one. There was nothing that was said, no message that was sent out from this administration on the 6th of June, which was the 66th anniversary of D-Day. And this past Monday was Flag Day, and also it was the 235th Army birthday. You heard nothing coming from this administration. And don't get me started about this Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal. The service chiefs asked for that to allow them to conduct a review, but this administration, of course, the House of Representatives, thought that special interest was more important than the interests of our men.
Is that something that frustrates you? Because as the president came in, he said that he would not be the one looking out for special interest groups, but it appears that he's gone in the exact opposite way, whether it be with homosexual, the whole don't ask, don't tell, unions. Has he totally just broken the promises that he made to the American people?
Well, this president has proven that he is nothing more than a political hack and a liar. And I think that's even starting to frustrate the people on the left who are not getting what they wanted. So, when you elect a community organizer, you get a community organizer sitting in the White House, a person that is so far over their head, not able to make a decision. The only thing he looks at is bullying and establishing commissions and promoting a very liberal, progressive legislative agenda that is the antithesis of who we are in the United States of America.
With the whole thing, I spoke with Ilario Pantano on that last night, and we both were talking.
Yeah, great young man.
Yeah, we were both talking about this trial in New York, and I asked him, and I asked you the same thing. Do you believe that this trial is more about putting the CIA and the former the Bush administration on trial than it is actually trying these terrorists?
Yes, you're absolutely right. And the most important thing that we got to understand, Wayne, is that the Geneva Convention is very specific about non-state, non-uniform belligerents being captured on the battlefield. They are not deserving of rights, and definitely not deserving of our constitutional rights and their quote-unquote day in court. And if we continue this practice of taking terrorists and bringing them to the United States and lawyering them up, we're just going to get more terrorists because they believe that we are displaying weakness and we're not serious about doing what is necessary to find them and destroy them, pursue them, and to win this fight against Islamic totalitarianism and terrorism.
Now, another question I would ask you is that we seem to be very passive with Iran and all the terrorist states, but yet we're being, I would say, tougher to Israel at this point. How do you explain that, and what would be your stand on how we protect Israel?
Well, by protecting Israel, they're our staunchest ally. They're our best ally in the Middle East. They're the sovereign state that we were the first to recognize in 1948. And for this president to sit there with Mahmoud Abbas and have photo ops, which he did not do with Prime Minister Netanyahu, for the United States for the first time to side with the United Nations in condemning Israel is something that is absolutely heinous. And for us to not understand that Hamas is a terrorist organization that has in its charter the destruction of the state of Israel, and to continue to placate and try to have appeasement policies with Iran is only going to lead to eventually the going into the abyss of what could potentially be a great war in the Middle East. So I think that once again it comes back to not having a person that can stand upon conviction and commitment and can display strength. And so in the Middle East, he is totally disrespected and disregarded. And I think that today there's a poll that is coming out talking about how the Muslim world has no respect for this president after all of his apologizing tours that he did in Turkey and also in Cairo, Egypt.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people understand in their culture they don't respect passiveness. They respect.
They don't. Absolutely right. They respect strength and might. And, we're not showing that. And there are some people in the world that you just got to put the hammer down on, and that is what the tribal Middle Eastern culture understands. And all this talk and compromise and negotiation gets you nowhere.
Yeah, their whole understanding is if you sit down and talk to them, that means they've already won. They have already,
absolutely. You're tracking 110%.
Thank you. Now, another issue that has obviously been on the horizon here is the illegal immigration issue. How do you feel about the law in Arizona, and what would you do to obviously improve the illegal immigration situation here in America?
Well, I'm thoroughly behind Governor Brewer and the state of Arizona 100%, and I came out and made that statement visibly, and I even spoke out against some members of the Republican Party who were siding against Governor Brewer. I thought that was not appropriate, and I thought it was very dangerous to the establishment of the rule of law, and that's who we are. Illegal immigration is illegal. That means the people are coming here breaking our laws, and if we do not enforce our laws, if we become a lawless society, then this great constitutional republic will be lost. And we have problems down here in Congressional District 22, which is what I'm running for, with the establishment of some sanctuary cities already. Jupiter is one. Lake Worth is becoming one. So I think that what Governor Brewer has done, many other states are going to start looking at, and I think that that's something also here in Florida we ought to be looking at, because it is about honoring our Constitution. Article 1, Section 8 addresses the repelling invasions. Article 4, Section 4. And yesterday we saw with their national parks that they are going to be closing down because of the threat of illegal immigration. And it's a sad day when our American citizens have to live under, a dark cloud and a threat from illegal immigrants, and our federal government is not doing anything about it. And I guess, according to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, federal government is even going to pursue suing sovereign states.
Right. That's what I did. I saw that yesterday too. Now, do you think we should make it a federal issue, or do you think we ought to let each state handle it the way they see fit?
Well, the bottom line is this: if the federal government does not uphold the mandates of the Constitution, which to establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, promote the general welfare of the citizens, and provide for the common defense, if they're not willing to do that, then the 10th Amendment is very clear. The states have the right to do it. So for the Obama administration to say that they're going to take legal action or sue the state of Arizona, they need to look at themselves in the mirror and understand that they have not done anything, and the states are operating within their rightful constitutional mandates to step up to the plate.
Do you, just out of curiosity, do you think, though, that with that state bill that it does possibly lend itself to some people being harassed or being profiled at all?
No, it does not. And the bottom line is that, why shouldn't we have the opportunity for our law enforcement to ask that question?
Right.
That's what it's all about. Look. When I go to catch an airplane, I get absolutely sick and tired of having to take my shoes off and take the jacket off and dump my pockets. I can't carry a bottle of water with me. I have to have a measure, aftershave and all the, shaving creams and all of this. But, I'm not breaking any laws or anything of that nature. So I think that it gets to a point in the United States of America, it's not racial profiling. I'm sick of hearing that.
Right.
It's about trend analysis. And so we got a problem in this country, and if we keep trying to deny it, being the threat of illegal immigration, being the threat of radical Islamic terrorism, which is existing in our country, we're going to lose our nation.
Right. I mean, bottom line, they have to do it's police work, and that's what they have to do to make sure they're keeping their citizens safe.
Absolutely.
Now, with this oil spill in the Gulf, has that affected your district and your area yet? Has that been something that's creeping its ugly head up on the beaches near you?
Well, it hasn't come around the beaches. We're on the Atlantic coast side, the southeast Atlantic side. My district is a coastal district running from Fort Lauderdale up to Jupiter Inlet. It takes in Broward and Palm Beach counties. So it is a concern if that oil spill were to get to the Gulf Stream and whip around to the East Coast. It is a concern if there is some oil bubble beneath the surface that we're not seeing that could drip underwater. We need to be looking at that. But I think the biggest thing is this moratorium on drilling.
Right.
I believe that we have to evaluate and analyze and assess what happened on the Deepwater Horizon rig. We have to make sure that we institute the right emergency management and incident response procedures so that the fail-safe systems that obviously did not kick in on that platform We got to do weekly, monthly drills and tests to make sure that that's not the case with our other platforms. But we can't put Americans out of work for 6 months, and we can't sit up here and say that we're just going to give up on developing our own oil resources. But we have to develop the full spectrum of our resources. I see that as being the issue that we have going forward. Look, if we're not going to do it, that's not telling Russia and China that they're not going to do it.
Exactly.
So we're making ourselves more dependent on foreign energy resources. And we saw with the president's speech the other night, just the same as Rahm Emanuel says, never let a good crisis go to waste.
Exactly.
All this is an opportunity to push this cap and trade agenda, which will destroy our economy, which is what Spain has already shown with these green energy promotion, and once again make us more dependent upon foreign sources.
Yeah, I was actually listening to someone talk about this bill, and they were actually saying that it would go to the extent of if you were trying to sell your home, that the government might come in and actually do an inspection to make sure you have the right kind of energy efficient windows. I mean,
yes, you're absolutely right. What you have to currently, you would have to go to what is called the California Green Standard. So you would have to actually get a license for your home from the federal government. You would have to have someone to come in and inspect your home to make sure that it meets green energy efficiency standards before, like you said, before you can sell your home. So once again, we have a federal government that is growing way outside the mandates of the Constitution. And this is nothing. This cap and trade is nothing more than behavior modification through taxation, which is just the same as the health care law, creating 111 new government agencies, 11 new taxes. This is nothing but a big grab for government.
Do you plan on trying to actually repeal that health care bill, or just maybe improve the bill once you're in Congress?
Well, I think the most important thing, first and foremost, the easiest thing to do is not appropriate to that bill, that legislation. So you just let it die on the vine, but then also start looking at how we can repeal it.
Right.
There may be one or two. I mean, protecting Americans with pre-existing conditions, that's a good thing. But most of that bill, most of that 2,000 some odd pages, is nothing more than a socialized medical system and the expansion of government. It does nothing to reduce the cost, and in the long term, it's going to kill our small businesses.
It can't be an actual reform bill without including tort reform. Would you agree?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the number one thing you have to look at is catastrophic litigation, which is driving up the cost. You talk to any doctor, and they'll tell you that. And so when you look at a state like Texas, which has tort reform there, you see doctors going there. You see medicine being practiced very well. You see the cost being lowered. When you look at a state like Florida, especially down here in South Florida, my district, where you have a large retirement community, doctors are coming here, and doctors are going under. They're being just swamped. So when you look at that aspect, when you look at we did nothing to breaking down the state-by-state restrictions on insurance agencies, when you look at the fact that illegal immigration affects our health care, we really did not do anything to solve this crisis.
Okay. Well, I think those are the things that people need to know. I think it's important, again, that people, the reason I've been having different people throughout the country come on the show and talk is because people need to understand that even though you're in Florida and someone, my listener, might be in California, you affect the laws. Once you're a congressperson, you affect the laws that affect the whole country. I think we learned that from the people up in Michigan when he finally passed that health care bill, that they see how important it is that we have to support the right candidates throughout the country.
Yeah, you got it absolutely right, because it's going to take 39 seats to be won in order to get the gavel out of Nancy Pelosi's hand. And every person that sits there in the House of Representatives, which is the most influential and important body, legislative body, their vote makes a difference for all of Americans. I mean, I'll be a direct representative of the people of Congressional District 22, but I'll be a voice for all of America. And if people enjoy what you and I just talked about, if they go to www.gowest2010.com, they can learn more about our campaign.
Exactly. Well, I'll tell you what, thank you so much. It's truly been a pleasure having you on the show. I had one more question for you. I see you went to the University of Tennessee. How did you feel when Lane Kiffin left?
Good riddance. One of the things about SEC football is, you really should not cross the Mississippi River or the Mason-Dixon line looking for a coach in the SEC. It's a tradition. It's a homegrown type of environment, and I'm glad that we've got Coach Dooley's son coming to be a part of our great program and tradition at the University of Tennessee.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Colonel Allen West. I really appreciate you coming on the show again. Like, you're a personal hero to me. I don't really get too many people that I can say that about, but I really appreciate you coming on the show. Can you give them the website address one more time so they can go on there and get more information and support you?
Absolutely, Wayne. It is www.gowest2010.com, and please sign up to get our email blast or any information, get on our mailing list, because we really love to get our message out. And we're closing in on 25,000 following us on Facebook.
Excellent. Well, good luck with the campaign. I can't wait to see you in November and take that gavel.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
All right. God bless you, sir.
God be with you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, man, Allen West, he is the man. That was one of my favorite interviews that I've, one of my favorite interviews that I've ever had. It's rare that I have someone that actually makes me nervous, or actually someone I'm so excited to talk to. When I first met Allen West, I met him at CPAC, and I said he's an unbelievable man. And I said I doubt that Congress will be the last stop for him. So I'm going to make a call right now. I talked to Ilario while he was coming from another interview, so I'm about to give him a call right now and get him on the line. And we're going to talk here for the last few minutes before the show goes off. He's running a great campaign down there, and I'm looking forward to talking to Ilario. So I'm about to call him now. Got any questions? Call in 347-996-3175.
Ilario Pantano.
Ilario, how you doing? This is Wayne Bradley.
Is this kid's cool to be conservative?
You know it. How you doing?
Well, then I must be cool like a fan.
You definitely are, my man. You definitely are. I've been following you, and it looks like you're running a heck of a campaign down there. Congratulations.
Well, thank you, my friend. The glory goes to God first and foremost, because without him we're all nothing. But I want to tell you something. We have a team of people down here that are working their tails off. We have a team of people on the internet that are out there telling people all about what we're doing down here. We've been acknowledged, for having this wonderful online presence. But the truth of the matter is, it's just folks like you around the country that are excited about looking at where we can reach into places that had previously been denied to us, Wayne. Where can we go to find a seat to put a conservative that for a long time that vote had been denied? And you know what I'm talking about? I'm in North Carolina's 7th District. I'm here at southeastern North Carolina. I'm the bottom third of the coastline here in North Carolina. I'm just above Myrtle Beach. I'm in between Camp Lejeune and Fort Bragg. And it's a beautiful place to live and visit, and I hope that we get to entertain you down here sometime. But, Wayne, the bottom line, as you know, is this district is conservative. It has a rating of R+5, which means that it's tilted 5 points for a president, for McCain, over Obama in 2008. It supported Bush in 2 elections. And so nationally, it's conservative. But I'm going against a 14-year Democrat, quote-unquote, blue dog, who's really a lapdog for Nancy Pelosi, and we're about to retire the lapdog.
Good deal. That's good. You've been having some pretty big endorsements lately. Who's come down there to endorse you? Well,
thank you for mentioning that. We just a couple of mayors, the mayor of Wasilla, then turned governor, Sarah Palin, and then the mayor of that place called New York. New York. So Rudy Giuliani, we're excited about that. So between the endorsement of Governor Sarah Palin and Mayor Rudy Giuliani, we're blessed to have the support not just of the 2008 vice presidential nominee, but also of a 2008 Republican presidential candidate. And these are, or certainly, challengers. So these are some very important endorsements for us because they represent folks that are thought leaders in the conservative space that have identified our race as one that's worth not just watching but supporting, and they've thrown their weight in, and we are honored for that. We're really honored.
Excellent. Has the incumbent has he been willing to debate with you? Have you had any good debates with Mike McIntyre?
Thank you for asking. And you know what? Folks can go on our website at pantanoforcongress.com, and they can get some great highlights. We've had some wonderful debates. I love them. I wish we could debate every day. I don't think my opponent feels that way, but I certainly wish we had the opportunity to debate every day, because I think it's so important for voters out there to see it straight, you know, not filtered, not through the lens of $500,000 of attack ads that Nancy Pelosi has bought and paid for my opponent. Let me tell you something, Wayne. My opponent has tried to run away from the fact that he supports this liberal Congress's agenda. And what he's tried to do, and he's even run ads saying, I don't work for Nancy Pelosi. And you know what? He got called out by Tim Kaine, you know, the chairman of the Democratic National Committee, said that's foolish. And it is foolish. You know why? Because Nancy Pelosi has put $500,000 into this race to attack me. And let me tell you something. She wouldn't be doing that unless his vote was important, unless his voice as a leader for her was important. And there's one other thing. For her to do that, she had to take money away from other liberals somewhere else to give it to Mike McIntyre. And so that means that he's an important henchman for her, and the truth is coming out. And after 10 months of this congressman saying he doesn't work for her, $500,000 doesn't lie.
Right. Now, I've watched throughout the country, and I've been watching a lot of the congressional races. He doesn't want to talk. Is he trying to talk issues at all? Has it all been mudslinging?
You know, he tries to talk issues through a distorted lens, which is to say he tries to suggest and he tries to take some positions that are very conservative. And he tries to talk about how he voted against health care, although everyone here in the district knows that was only after he got a pass from the speaker, because he's a member of her whip team, right? So he has to go out and get votes. So he tried to talk about how he voted against health care, and he tries to talk about how he's for lower taxes. But there's one problem. And the problem is, if he actually believed any of the conservative things he talks about, he would be voting for me too. Because there's only one candidate of the two of us that can actually make any of those conservative policies that are going to bring jobs back. There's only one candidate of the two of us that can actually do that. You see, as long as he keeps giving his first vote and his most important vote to Nancy Pelosi to be Speaker of the House, there's no way we can move forward with a lower tax, less regulation, less debt, less runaway spending, growth of the private sector by allowing private investment to fuel the jobs that we know we need. Unless he is willing to recognize that I'm the only choice in our race that can do that, he's in the way. He's in the way, and I think that he's started to realize the early voting turnout is absolutely favoring us. It's so strong. Wayne, I've got to tell you, we've made history. We have two counties in North Carolina, Brunswick and New Hanover County, which were the top two, number one and number two, respectively, early voting counties in the entire state of North Carolina. And you know what that means? That means that voters here in southeastern North Carolina are excited, and they are going and they are taking our conservative message, and they are marching to the polls so they can retake their country. Good stuff.
Good deal. Good deal.
Praise God. We are happy. I hope you can hear the joy in my voice, Wayne, because good things are happening. God's been smiling on us. We have a beautiful day. I'm driving through the beautiful countryside of what is southeastern North Carolina. I was just up in Raleigh doing another kind of a televised debate with my opponent. I think we'll get that up on the web within the next day or two. You know, and again, one of the things that the debater wanted to talk about was, you know, military policy, national security policy, and boy, wasn't I happy to talk about that. Wayne, your listeners know I'm a Marine veteran of 2 wars. I fought in the Desert Storm War, then I went and worked on Wall Street, but I left that and started my own business, and then on September 11th, I saw the country attacked, and I went back into the Marines to fight again, and your listeners know that. Well, your listeners ought to be surprised that my opponent, who tries to be this conservative, he tries to tell people he is, he voted against the funding for the troops. He voted to cut and run from Iraq 7 times with Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi, and then he voted against the surge. And then he wants to try and say that he's a pro-troop, you know, pro-defense guy. You can't be both. You're either a liberal or you want to protect our country, but you can't be both. You can't be both.
Now, this is the question I would have for you is, what do you want to do after you elected to Congress? What will be the first thing that you would tackle? What issue? And obviously, how would you deal with the military and the rules of engagement and things of that nature?
Well, Wayne, the fact of the matter is national security policy right now is really driven by our economy, isn't it? And so jobs really are a national security issue, right? If we can't afford to sustain our troops overseas because we're running out of jobs here at home, that's got to become priority number one. But my way to do that is the conservative way, Wayne. It's lowering taxes. Right now, the biggest tax increase in history is about to come into effect because Nancy Pelosi and Mike McIntyre, my opponent, ran out of Washington without making sure the taxes weren't going to go up, and that's going to impact small business and big business, and that means they can't hire. Because it's very simple. It's like a seesaw. I hope your listeners can visualize a seesaw. You have a choice. One end goes up. If you pay higher taxes, the other end goes down. You can't hire more people, and vice versa. If you want to hire more people, you can't pay more taxes. So what's it going to be? Are we serious about getting the economy going? And if we are, we got to lower taxes. And it really is that simple. There's no magic. There's no magic. It's simple, conservative economic policy. Now, what happens is you add in regulation, like the EPA wanting to regulate dust, making it impossible for us to drill for energy here, making it impossible for us to develop nuclear power, so we have to keep sending cash to governments and countries that want to kill us. You have the EPA making it so hard for businesses to do business here that folks who have to go overseas to have taxes that are so high. You have unions that are not only poisoning our children's minds and ruining education, as the teachers' unions have, bringing our educational standard down to the bottom of the barrel in the world, but they've also poisoned the wealth for manufacturing here. And my opponents voted for card check. So you know what that would do, Wayne? That would invite union thugs to stand in your living room and decide if you want to vote for unions or not. That would be abandoning your right to privacy and having a private ballot, and it would allow union thugs to know if you were with them or not. And you know what? They're going to want to come over and talk to you and convince you, aren't they?
They wouldn't want to do that over here, Ilario.
No, sir. No, sir.
They don't want to do that over here. But hey, that's a very interesting look at it. Now the thing is, the health care bill that's still out there. We're still finding out more and more about that. Do you think the best way to go about dealing with that will be defunding it once you're in Congress?
Yes, sir. I'm a repeal and replace guy, and short of being able to do that, it will be funding it, absolutely. And listen, it goes beyond the fact that. Did I lose you?
No, I'm listening. I'm right here.
Okay, good. It goes beyond the fact that the quality of care is not improved but worse, and it goes beyond the fact that $500 billion is cut from Medicare. It goes beyond the fact that this puts the federal government in your life from cradle to grave. It goes beyond the fact that it invites 15,000 new IRS agents. All of that aside, you know what else this monstrosity does? It kills jobs. And I've talked to small business owners from car washes to restaurants, medical practices. And when you don't know what it's going to cost to hire someone, Wayne, you don't hire. It's really very simple. And what this health care bill has done is it's made it very uncomfortable for employers to hire people because they don't know what it will cost them. And as a result, they're making a decision to do more with less. So we're starting to see as the shoots of this little economic recovery is hopefully, God willing, we're coming out of it. Employers are very reluctant to add one more head to the rolls because who knows what that's going to cost. And will it fine if you're not providing health care? I mean, my goodness, we have just disincentivized people from hiring people because we've told them you're going to have to pay tons of money or we'll fine you. Isn't that something?
Yes, it's amazing because we don't have people that are in business. They don't understand how important that is. I think that's the difference
thank you for saying that.
Community organizer as your leader, as someone who might have some prior business experience, and they just don't get that.
I agree with you 100%, Wayne.
Now, I heard that you, like I said, I'll try to keep up with you. I heard that you went to New York, 9/11. I did. I had to give them a piece of my mind. And you know what? It wasn't just a piece of my mind. It was a piece of the voters of the 7th District. Because I went up there, as you know, on September 11th, not just to honor our fallen, but I went up there to protest against the mosque at Ground Zero. And I went up there with the love, the support, and the prayers of the vast majority of the men and women of my district who think that mosque at Ground Zero is an abomination. Because that is a martyr marker
That is an effort at territorial conquest for people who have come over and slaughtered men, women, and children to put a territorial marker, to plant a flag, Wayne. And people have tried to say, oh, but it wasn't really at ground zero. And my answer to them is, if you were standing on the roof of the building, you would have been killed by a piece of landing gear from an aircraft that was piloted by terrorists who 15 minutes earlier had slit the throat of stewardesses and pilots with box cutters, and just before crashing into an office tower, killing everybody on board their plane and almost 3,000 people in the buildings, they shouted Allah Akbar. Now let me tell you something. If you had been standing on the roof of that building, the nose landing gear from one of those planes driven by one of those terrorists would have killed you. That makes it part of ground zero. Do you know what I mean?
I totally understand you. I mean, my whole situation with that was, it's all about location. I mean, if you want to build a mosque, just build it somewhere different. I don't think anyone else would have complained about it.
That's exactly right. And Mayor Rudy Giuliani, who, by the way, has endorsed this, as I mentioned a moment ago, said this very clearly. He said, if they are healers, as they claim to be, then they will move the mosque. If they are warriors, as they seem to be, they will dig in and fight and continue to cause pain and suffering to 300 million American people that are still dealing with the psychological trauma of watching our brothers and sisters and friends and neighbors be murdered. I knew people, Wayne, who I lost in those buildings. So many of your listeners did too. I worked in one of those buildings that was destroyed. And this is such a grave insult to all of us, but more than just the survivors and witnesses, this is an insult to America. It wasn't New York that was attacked on September 11th, Wayne. It was America that was attacked. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Now, people listening can obviously hear the passion in your voice, and also knowing that you're going to be someone that's going to protect us. Why do you think that our current administration and a lot of liberals just take such a lackadaisical attitude towards protecting this country and also dealing with the whole, the whole war against terrorism?
Oh, my goodness gracious, because there's something about this group, from Obama to Reid to Pelosi, all of these guys, Mike McIntyre enables it, my opponent enables it. There's something about this group that at heart is looking to deconstruct America. And you see that in the policy choices when the Attorney General, Eric Holder, begins the prosecution of CIA officers in 2009, men and women who were out there risking their lives to keep you and your family safe, and our Attorney General wants to prosecute them for doing their job. It makes you wonder, has up gone down? Has left gone right? What is going on? Is the world gone crazy? But that's the kind of stuff that has happened. That's the kind of stuff that leads one to scratch their head and say, are these people serious about keeping us safe? When an underwear bomber gets off an airplane and he's read his rights 50 minutes after the plane lands, when he almost killed hundreds of people and could have been a plot or a part of a much bigger plot, and instead he gets to invoke his right to remain silent like a U.S. citizen when he almost carried out mass murder and terror. And let's not forget that terrorism is much bigger than just the hundreds or the thousands or the millions of people that you kill in that moment. Terrorism is about imposing your will psychologically on a society and causing it psychological trauma and damage, which includes, as on 9/11, the loss of $1 trillion from our market in one day. In one day.
Right. Yep. People don't, like I said, it just seems that the way the country is going with the libs, they don't take it serious at all. They think that we can talk to these guys, negotiate, and they're not interested in that. They have no desire whatsoever to negotiate and sit down with people. They feel like they won once they've done that. They have no desire.
That's exactly right. Wayne, that is exactly right. And the irony of all of this is that the liberals that are so quick to give away all of our hard-fought rights and freedoms to these terrorists or to illegal immigrants or to anybody that ultimately is not deserving of the things that we have unless they come through a process legally, these same liberals that want to give all of that away decry the conservatives that made the tough decisions in the wake of 9/11 to put up the lines, to go out there and fight the fight to keep us safe. And now, because we haven't had an attack here, God willing, in a meaningful way, they're able to be fat and happy and complacent sleeping under the blanket of security that was provided by the conservatives that went out there and did the hard things, that made the fights, that made the tough decisions, that made the tough calls. And now you see these liberals, they act like it's always been safe, it's always been secure, and they can dismantle the apparatus that is safe. And that's not okay. We've got to fight this.
I've noticed in this whole campaign season that none of the liberals are pushing the war, or not mentioning it anymore. What's your thoughts on that? Do you agree with this timetable that we have in place now, or what do you think? How do you think we need to go about handling these wars in Afghanistan and Iraq?
I don't like artificial timetables because they tell our enemy that we're weak. What I like is making sure that the enemy knows that we're serious, that we're committed, and that we're determined. What I'm going to tell you is that the liberals, my opponent, among them, voted 7 times to cut and run from Iraq, voted against the surge, voted even against the troop funding bill. And I'm going to tell you something. That is not leadership. When the going gets tough, when the war turns hard, you've got a choice. You can lose fast or win slow. And my opponent joined his liberal leadership to vote against the troops, to vote against America, because ultimately when we lose conflicts overseas, America loses. We lose our standing. We lose our face. We lose our place. We lose the value of the dollar. We lose the value of our word when we make promises to our allies, and that's got to be maintained at all costs. So I feel very strongly that we need to dig in and win. Wayne, I'm going to have to let you go. I'm running out of time. I have to pick up another interview that I have now. I just wanted to tell you it has been an honor and a pleasure to speak to you today, and I hope that you remind people that they can find out more about our website at pantanoforcongress.com. At pantanoforcongress.com.
Thank you so much for coming on the show today, and I'll see you in D.C.
I hope that you will. I'm looking forward to that, Wayne. Thank you. God bless you and your family, and God bless America.
God bless you too, Ilario. Good luck. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So that was Ilario Pantano. Like I say, he is one of the most energetic, and he's fired up. I love talking to him because you can hear it in his voice, the passion that he wants to bring to D.C. and to get things back on track. He's a true patriot, someone that understands what we're going to have to do from a military standpoint. It's also from a business standpoint because he's had experience in both sides of the coin. So I'm really thinking he's going to be a great choice of Congress here in the 7th District of North Carolina. So if you're listening out there and if you want to know more about him, go to his website, Pantano for Congress. Support it. I mean, we only got a few days here left to the election. If you know friends in that area, make sure they're voting for the right person. We've heard enough of the term blue dogs, and the blue dogs only become blue dogs when it's good for their scenario. A lot of these guys now are saying they didn't vote for stuff and they didn't have to vote for it. Well, they only didn't vote for it once they knew they had the votes necessary to win. They were all for it, and the only again, it was certain areas in North Carolina. You're going to have your typical red states where some of these congressmen just knew that they couldn't do it because they had no chance to win their election if they stood on those kind of voting records. So you do have some people that call themselves blue dogs, like he was saying, this Mike McIntyre. But again, when you have Nancy Pelosi putting in over $500,000 into their campaign, it shows you that his vote was there regardless, and that he was running around squeezing everyone else to get those votes out there so that he wouldn't have to vote for that, so he would be in the free when he's campaigning here in North Carolina. So you just got to pay attention to your candidates. I just got a message saying somehow someone like Mike Rogers, the Speaker of the House. I think that would be a great idea because he's someone that brings common sense to the table, someone that can communicate with both sides, I believe, someone that wants to get things done and not just play the game of politics. I spoke to Mike Rogers many a time, and I can tell you that his communication skills and his acumen to get things done is sorely needed. We have a lot of these politicians, the old guard, that have basically played the game in D.C. for a long time, the same way Democrats have, and that's what's gotten us into this position. So we need to find the conservative candidates that are going to actually vote with the constituents of their area, not be swallowed up by the D.C. culture and the D.C. lifestyle of lobbyists and all the freebies that come along with that. That's what we've got to pray for, and I want to make that clear. That is what we have to pray for, even with our Tea Party candidates, because we have a lot of new candidates that are new to, not only new to politics, but new to having cameras in your face, new to being treated like you're special, new to getting free enticements from people that want things done. So what we've got to do is not only make sure that we elect the right candidates, but also pray that they stay strong, stay mentally tough, keep their integrity, remember the reasons that we voted them in the first place, because I see that being the next big challenge. We could very well have a lot of new Tea Party candidates that will be in Congress, possibly in Senate also, and we have to make sure that they stay true, meaning you have to call them, you got to call them, email them. Don't hesitate to do that. We've got to keep all of our leaders honest. I think that's a big challenge that's going to be moving forward, because we've had Republicans in place, and they just have not voted the way that we expected them to, not the way that we put them in place to vote for. And I think a lot of people up until 2008 were sleeping on it. These problems did not happen overnight, and they did not come strictly from President Obama. This came from multiple people, multiple administrations, Republicans and Democrats alike, and I think that's why the Tea Party has been so well accepted by so many people of different backgrounds, ethnicities. I know that the mainstream media likes to portray it as just nothing but a bunch of racist white people and things of that nature, which it couldn't be further from the truth, because again, I've experienced it. I have gone to Tea Parties, watched what goes on. I've spoke at those events, and it's been nothing but love and support from those people. Now, you're going to find a bad apple in every bunch. You're going to find some, if you go to some events, you might find a inappropriate sign. No more inappropriate than if you go to a football game and sometimes you have someone have to remove a sign. I mean, you have idiots wherever you go. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. But obviously, the Tea Party as a whole has been open to everyone, because that's the whole point. We watched as the elitists have done everything they wanted to do, and and as the people of America, we've been kind of left to sit down on our own, and while they just go and tell us what we think is they tell us what they think is best for us. Well, the time for that is up. These new candidates that we're bringing in from the Tea Party candidates, conservative candidates, are gonna do the right thing, but we have to be diligent and being just as passionate as we are right now down the road when we need them to vote the right way. And that's only going to come from calling, emailing, staying in constant contact with your representatives, making sure that they know that you haven't forgot that they made promises that we expect them to keep. And again, I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for a lot of these people as they come into D.C. is to make sure that they don't get swallowed up by the culture of dirty politics and progressivism. Here, did I make that word up? I'm not sure if I did or not, but we have to keep an eye on them and make sure that they don't, take a bite from the apple and begin to do exactly what the rest of these elected politicians have done, which is look out for a very small group of people and make sure that them and their buddies are okay. And that, again, that affects the rest of us and leaves us in a bind. We watched Congress go on break with the looming taxes rising, and they didn't take care of it. Again, it just shows that they do not care about the people here in America. So, and Team Player, I'm watching you here on the chat room. You're right. Blue dogs and unicorns don't exist. I agree. Either you're conservative or you're not. And it's been a marketing ploy with a lot of these people that they're doing the way they label themselves. But we need conservatives. We don't need blue dogs. We need conservatives. We need independent-minded constitutionalists. I see a lot more of that moving forward. I can really see an independent party possibly becoming a major role if people don't get the results they want in 2010 out of this election, whether it be from the elected officials. It could be some real changes in 2012. So we're going to keep our eye on that. I thank everyone that was listening to the show today. If you get a chance, go to conservativescool.com, the website. Check out all the all the updates and information that we're posting on there. Follow me on Twitter at WBconservative.com. That's my username, WBConservative. In a couple of weeks here, we're going to switch the format to the Wayne Bradley Show. I want to start inviting more guests on the show, and sometimes it's hard to get some libs on here with the name of your show being Conservative is Cool Radio. So we're going to be moving to a different format so we can get some more debating, some more exchanging of ideas. I think that's important also as we move forward. I typically have a lot of conservative guests on my show, which, again, those are the people that I'm interested in hearing from, but we're going to start bringing on more people to spark the debate and to promote more thinking. So I'm looking forward to that in 2 weeks. It'll be changed to the Wayne Bradley Show. So thank you for everyone that's listening. Again, make sure you go to conservativescool.com. We got 5 days left, folks. Let's get it right and get the right people in D.C., and let's get America back on track. Thank you for listening, and God bless you.